Welcome to Hovey Smith School of Self-Reliance. Today, we're going to start your journey on what would be the equivalent of a Master's of a Business Administration based on my book, Make Your Own Job, Anytime, Anywhere, at Any Age. Now, in this book, I can't tell you all you would get in a 6-year degree, obviously. But what we're going to do is two very significant things. We're going to tell you how to originate business ideas and how to evaluate them, then how to start your own business in the United States if you wish to go to that stage. You don't necessarily have to, but if you're going to make any real money, and if you're going to be able to write off your expenses, yes, you need to legally start a business. This course of 12 lectures is going to show you how to do some stuff. Conceive of new business ideas. Provide step-by-step instructions on how to start your own business in the U.S. Give practical tips at every stage of starting your business. Demonstrate that businesses can be started by anyone from teens to senior citizens and be successful at it. Show that modern workers must really take charge of their own lives, so they're not so dependent upon their employers for their very survival and existence. Let's start off with telling you a little about me. Who am I? Well, I am a professional geologist. I hold degrees from the University of Georgia, the University of Alaska, and studied at others. And we worked as a professional for a number of decades throughout North America, especially in Alaska. And I'm also a writer. I have been writing and selling materials since the 1970s. And most of my materials were outdoor related. These included hunting, bow fishing, crossbow hunting, and I have books on all of these subjects. These were produced over a period of years following magazine and newspaper work. I also worked as a regular newspaper correspondent for regional newspapers here in Georgia, notably the Augusta Chronicle and the Macon Telegraph, and we did this for some years. So I'm familiar with the journalistic routine and how to write a variety of materials. Finally, after the bottom fell out of the metals market in the early 1980s, I returned home and started writing books. And the reason I turned to books was because the magazine articles were okay, they were fun to do, but they paid very little and they paid very late. In the magazine markets, you don't get paid until your piece is published, even though you may have written it years before. Or an editor may be sitting on a stack of your manuscripts that never see print. You put the money into them, you wrote them, he accepted them, but never, ever, ever published them. Hence, you never got paid. Well, that obviously did not work when I needed to actually use my writing to make some money. So consequently, I started writing books. With the idea here, you write once and you sell often. Instead of writing once and selling once. That makes perfect sense. Very well. Now I went to the University of Georgia and I got my geology degree. And then I pulled 2.5 years in the service as a military engineer. Military engineering is a very ad hoc kind of military life. You never know what situation you will be presented in as an engineer in a combat situation. And I was a combat engineer. So you must be able to roll with the punches and solve whatever situation presents itself at the moment. It might be demolitions, it might be bridge building, it might be constructing an ice airfield, it might be building roads in sub-zero weather, all of which I've done. And this was an interesting life. And most of my time was spent in Alaska, as it turned out. Well, after my military career was over, I started doing geology. Again, I felt my education was getting rusty after 2.5 years in the service, so I went to the University of Alaska and I got my master's degree and then started working professionally for consulting companies mainly, but worked all over North America in various places like West Texas and Nevada and Arizona and particularly Montana, but also in the east in places like Maine and South Carolina and so on and so on. So I got to see a lot of the country. And in the meantime, I would hunt and bow fish and write my outdoor articles. Then, when I started doing books, I looked around and saw, well, a lot of people are writing books about how to shoot big deer. I don't want to write that book. So my book, Backyard Deer Hunting, was how to shoot deer inexpensively, close to home, and put food on the family's dinner table. That was a tact I used. Similarly, no one recently had written a book about the modern crossbow. All right, I took that on. So I wrote a book called Crossbow Hunting. Also, no one had recently done a good book on bow fishing. So I took that up and I wrote a book on bow fishing. So I explored and published these topics that were not absolutely beaten to death by other writers. And we sold some thousands of books this way. So that was a modest success and established my reputation as an outdoor writer. I went to the SHOT Show every year, got to know the people, got to know the businesses. And the business ideas that were generated then sort of stuck. In the meantime, I'm married. My wife, she took a business degree. And as she studied, I studied. So we sort of took this course together, although she was the one that attended the formal classes. I read the books too. So we both got something out of that. She was a microbiologist and never did really practice in the business line. Although, as you see now, I am with my 3 published business books. Once I returned home, I became an employee of a kaolin mining company, then called ECC, English China Clays, a historic company originally based in Cornwall. Well, what I did for that company was not work as a geologist. I worked as a new position, an information scientist. In short, I helped R&D folks gather patents, gather materials. I read literally thousands of patents and wrote these up in a searchable database, which did not exist for the older patents. Then we also established a library for the institution, and I worked in this position for some time. After that job was terminated, my directions turned more towards business and away from the outdoor life a bit. After all, I was getting older by this time, not able to run with the dogs anymore. started writing business books. The first one was a little pamphlet, which you'll see later in the course. The second one was Create Your Own Job Security, Start Your Own Business at Midlife, aimed at middle management. And finally, the book we're discussing right now, Make Your Own Job Anytime, Anywhere, at Any Age. Why this particular book? There are two segments of the population that have been underserved by business books, and that's always been the market I've gone after. What hadn't people beaten to death before? And that is teenagers and senior citizens. Hundreds of books have been written for middle management, but not for these extremes. So I wanted my book to show you how you could actually make some money, start your own business, a little mini business, or even a big business, and found a company in the United States. And that is a process we are in now. Recently, I attended the Austin Film Festival, where I took my screenplays, which are based on my two novels. And one of the challenges given at the Austin Film Festival was write your own personal log line. What a log line is a one-line description of a movie that sums up the entire movie in a single line. Something you can print on a billboard, for example. And what is my log line? Through my more than 20 books, 900 YouTube videos, blogs, radio shows, and personal appearances, my purpose is to teach self-reliance by helping people help themselves. And that's what I'm doing for you. I am encouraging you to draw on your own experiences and your own resources and form your own business so you can actually control your life. Now, these efforts range from putting food on the dinner table, an outgrowth of my outdoor materials, and which I did for years, to actually starting new businesses, which we are engaged in right now. How do you succeed in this endeavor? Well, if you can, start early. Start in high school. Well, that's a pretty large burden to place on a young guy or gal, but many people do. And some people actually start their own businesses in high school and grow these throughout their lives. Others do not. They do several things in stages, and we'll discuss both methods later. Expose yourself to different business situations. If you've never worked in retail trade, well, maybe you should a little bit, just to get an idea about factors such as inventory. How do you get your stuff? What do you pay for it? Do you work through distributors? Is this something you create yourself? And how do you price it so it will sell, hopefully? Observe the work situations and your surroundings. What are other people doing? Can I think of a way, or have I thought of a way, that they could do that job better? It wasn't in my wheelhouse at the moment, but maybe it is now. Think how you can help people solve their problems. When most people think of starting new businesses, they think either of making something or retail trade, both of which can occur. But oftentimes, the more viable business, the more productive business, and the easiest to get off with less cost is actually to sell knowledge. What do you know that other people should know to improve their lives? That may be an interesting thought for a lot of you. Think about that. Take advantage of free publicity. Advertising is expensive. If you want to place an ad in the New York Times, you're talking about thousands of dollars for a little ad that's blah, 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 and probably will never be read by anybody. But they think a lot of their New York Times and their ad space. If you advertise on television, that is even more expensive. You're talking about $5,000 or more a minute of broadcast time for television ads. What if I told you you could get more and better exposure for free? Well, you can if you know how. And I'm going to tell you how. Learn from your mistakes. All of us go through life and we do some things well and we do some things halfway well and other things we don't do good at all. All right. In this latter bit category, what absolutely failed? What was a complete bust? Why? Why did it fail? Are other people seeing or having similar problems? This might be lifestyle issues. This might be drug addiction. This might be alcohol. How did you overcome these, and how can you help other people overcome these? You aren't the only one. We're all differently gifted, and we're also all differently afflicted. And sometimes our gifts are also our afflictions. So, think about your life. Build knowledge through study and travel. Visit your libraries. Use your libraries. Read books. I know that's out of fashion these days, but take up a book and read it. Read my book. Read some other people's books. Read. Don't just sit in front of the television set and absorb stuff. You want to start looking and seeing what's going on in the world. Not all the bad stuff, although that may be useful too, but encourage yourself and read what interests you. And I don't care in what genre, read it. As a young guy, I was a voracious reader of outdoor gun and hunting magazines. I read everything I could get my hands on, which weren't many at that age. Outdoor Life was one of them. It's gone now. And the National Rifleman, when I found out about that, I joined the NRA and started reading that. The American Hunter came along later when I was in college. I read that and wrote for it. But read what interests you. Travel is one of the greatest mind-expanding ventures you can get into, particularly foreign travel. If you can spend time abroad, or if you have spent time abroad already, and have recently immigrated into the U.S., you have a great fund of knowledge that maybe your contemporaries don't have. You may think because I know it, everybody else in the world knows it. That's not true. You know your own experiences and you have had them. By the end of this course, what you're going to get is a way of generating and ranking your business opportunities. A method of selecting the best business opportunities for you to do right now. Maybe you need to pay next month's rent. Okay, I'll tell you how to raise money for that. A plan for preparing for longer-term business opportunities. All right. You want to be an X because there's good money in it. Industrial plumbing, for example. But you need certification. You need training. Some of this can be on the job, but you also will need to oftentimes pass some state exams for whatever trade or profession you're into. So, okay, you know you have to do that, so you plan for it and you train for it. You set an overall life goal. How do I want my life to work? Graduation in high school? College? Maybe some college. Can't afford it all, but can afford some. All right. Start a business. Have a family. Retire. But do some business whilst I'm retired that I really enjoy doing. Plan to retire in your late 50s. That way you can still be healthy enough to do some stuff. Go on your trips. Expand your mind. Develop friends. People you never knew who may be valuable to you in later life. If you plan to accomplish these goals, then you leave room for self-development and enjoyment. Don't forget that stage. Don't pound yourself in the grave with your own hammer. Leave and plan some time so you can do what you damn well please, like I'm doing right now. And conceive of a business that's not so demanding, but you really enjoy, that you can do when you retire. And that is the general plan. How do we accomplish it? Well, that's what the next 11 lessons will go through, exactly how you accomplish it. Right now, at the start, I want you to gather material about your life. What have you done? This may be papers you wrote in high school. This may be things you produced in college. This may be some work recognition you received for something or other that you thought of or you invented. All right. Gather this material together. Now, this would include workplace evaluations, report cards. What did you really do well in school? What are your talents that have been judged by others? Are you a good communicator? Are you a good writer? Is mathematics your thing? Are the sciences your thing? What are you well qualified to do? Or could be qualified to do? Think about other job possibilities as you go through these and note them. Because we will do an exhaustive list later. But in the meantime, if you find something, yeah, this is something I always thought I might want to do, so write it down. Start recording these things as you gather your materials. And the reason that you gather these materials is we are innately forgetful. We are busy with life tasks. Many of you have families, you have kids, you have everyday responsibilities, and these absorb all of your brain power. Go back to the years that you really had time to think a little bit about stuff, instead of just, I've got to get the kids to school, soccer practice. Helga's got to go somewhere. Doctor's appointment for my in-law. Go, 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 go. And while you're in the process of all this going, you're not thinking about yourself. Go back, retrieve this data, and actually think about yourself. What did I want to do? What was I doing here? Did I really enjoy that? I know I got a good grade, but I didn't really like it. Okay, categorize these things and start thinking about them. Then, in later lessons, we'll go through exactly how you separate these and rank them. But now, have a good week, gather your materials, and we will make some real progress in the next few lessons.